Let's curb the baseball talk for a minute because we have our special guest on. That's Ted Nguyen of The Athletic joining us to talk about the NFC North. Ted, man, I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, man, so the Detroit Lions hype, as much as I know and believe that it's real, I also know that I'm a Detroit Lions fan at heart. All of us in this building are, and we report on them daily, and they're doing amazing things, so we only have amazing things to say. But realistically, we've kind of been, I guess, kind of blind to what else is going on in the NFC North. Can you fill us in from your perspective, man? Like, who's the biggest threat to our Lions this year for the NFC North?
Um, I think there's a couple of budding teams there. Obviously, we know that the Packers are an emerging team with Jordan Love, finishing the season so strong and all those weapons they have. And I think their defense is going to be better too. It's not going to be a defense that just concedes to run like they have in the past with Rick Barry. They are going to move into a system where they're going to have an extra man in the box. They're going to play a lot more cover three, and I think they'll be able to challenge the Detroit Lions on that aspect a little bit more. But mainly, just their offense, is going to be very exciting to watch. And I have a lot of faith in Jordan Love. I don't know if they are quite up to the task of challenging the Detroit Lions just yet, but the thing with the Packers is I think we just don't know exactly where their ceiling is quite yet and how fast they're going to be able to reach it. So I think they're a potential team that can give the Lions some problems. But as we know, I think even from an outside perspective, I think the Lions are just in a different class right now. And the second team are the Bears. They finished the season strong on a defensive note last season, so I think a lot of people are expecting their defense to be a top 10 type of unit, possibly. And then, you have Caleb Williams and all those great skill players he's throwing to. But he's a rookie. I mean, even though he's the number one pick, he's still a rookie, and we don't know exactly how fast it's going to progress just yet. But those are two teams with potential, but they don't have the proven pieces like the Lions have.
And the one thing I did want to ask about the Green Bay Packers, I'm a big fan of their receiving core and the depth of their receiving core. I think they've got four guys that you could look at all of them as wide receiver twos at the very least on different teams. What is it going to take for those guys kind of to step up? Because even with that depth, they don't have that one alpha piece like we see on these other teams, like with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and DJ Moore. You've got that solidified wide receiver one. They really don't have that. Is there a guy you could see stepping up to being that wide receiver one for the Packers, or can they kind of get it done by committee like they did last year?
I think you definitely can get it done by committee, but I also think it makes it a lot easier when you do have that one guy that you can depend on third down that you know is going to get open. And I know their head coach, Matt LaFleur, kind of scoffed at the idea of having a number one receiver. But I do still think it's important to have that guy that can get open on money downs when you need him to. And the thing with the Packers is they might not have one. They might end up having four guys that emerge into that type of guy. So I think a lot of people are excited about Dontrevious Wicks, who could be that guy. To me, Jalen Reed is going to be a very good player, but he's kind of a number two, number three player that's going to be very, very good in that role. Also, Christian Watson, if he could stay healthy and continue to develop his game, he definitely has the physical skill set to do it. And a dark horse guy that I really liked, that I didn't expect to like as much before I really turned on the film, was Romeo Dobbs. I think he's actually one of the top route runners in the league that doesn't get talked about enough. The thing with him is his hands are kind of inconsistent, but as far as route running, and trust, I think Jordan Love really developed a strong chemistry with them and really trusts Romeo Dobbs. He's a dark horse guy that I can see that maybe takes that number one role for the Packers.
Yeah, that's how I felt watching them last year. Like, whenever they needed to play, Dobbs always kind of happened to be there to make all these miracle catches. Even some that may have been like deflections or whatnot. He just always seemed the secure guy in those situations. Speaking about a guy in the division who we don't have an answer if he's secure or not, what has been your takeaway with Caleb Williams? I've seen the plays and I've been impressed, but also I'm just kind of wondering, like, can he survive a 17-game season just running around like that? Like, I just, as a Lions fan, I envision like Aiden Hutchinson getting a hold of him, and maybe he's out like 3 or 4 weeks when that happens,
Yeah, I think he definitely has to play faster, especially in the red zone. That's where you really kind of see him start to scramble around and try to reverse field and all those things. And that's going to be a part of a game that you don't want to really coach out of him because that's kind of what makes him special. Obviously, you want him to avoid taking big hits and throwing the ball before he gets hit or sliding or whatever when he does decide to run. And we all saw him kind of practice that in Hard Knocks. But one of the reasons why you draft Caleb is because his movements are so efficient within the pocket. He can get through 1, 2, 3 very quickly, efficiently, set his feet, and get the ball out quickly. That's all on film, so he can do that. But part of what makes him special is his ability to extend when he needs to. But I think early on in his career, I think you want to see him just try to play within the pocket before really expanding his game and trying to be that playmaker. That could be dangerous, like you guys mentioned.
And looking at the fourth team in this division, the Minnesota Vikings, that I think the consensus out of anybody outside of Minnesota is that they're going to be the worst team in this division, but they're not treating it like that. Even with the injury to J.J. McCarthy, they go out there and they sign Stephon Gilmore to a 1-year deal, which is kind of an all-in type of move. And you look at Sam Darnold, who isn't the worst quarterback in the world, but he's certainly not the best. Is Minnesota trying to contend this year? What are they doing with their roster?
Yeah, I don't. I think the plan was for Sam Darnold to start anyways, and maybe JJ McCarthy comes in and take the reins. I don't think they wanted to sit McCarthy a whole year, but I think if everything fell into place and Sam Darnold play well, even if McCarthy was healthy, I think they would be willing to sit him because if Sam Darnold is thriving and he's playing like the number one overall pick and he's finally living up to his potential and the Vikings are in playoff contention, they wouldn't sit him, just to sit him. I think they would give McCarthy a year to sit and watch. So right now the McCarthy option is off the table, but the potential for Sam Darnold to kind of reacclimate his career and play in the best situation that he's ever played in with a great number one receiver, a good number two receiver, a very, very good play caller, and all those things, that potentially could still be in play. So we'll see what happens. Of course, there's a chance that he just kind of regresses to being a turnover machine like he's been. But we'll see. Maybe he kind of improves and plays much better in the best situation that he's ever been in.
Yeah, I mean, he's known as a Lions killer here locally because he got us that first night with the Jets when he first emerged. I think 2 years back with the Panthers, he absolutely destroyed us. He whoops our ass every single time, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw Nick Mullen with in that Minnesota Vikings system. Guys can thrive in the system, and Sam Darnold certainly has that talent.
Now, one question I have to ask you, just because it's kind of a hot topic here, because golf has been so polarizing. So naturally, so has Hendon Hooker in those situations. Where do you view him in terms of his development? Obviously, QB2 at best right now, but do you think he has the potential to be more, or maybe even the trade piece for Lions in the future, or we're still kind of just waiting to see?
It's hard to take too much from the preseason because the looks are so simple, and we've seen quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett and other quarterbacks like him thrive in the preseason, and when you get to the regular season, they kind of just fall apart. So I don't want to take too much away from his preseason performances, but I will say that it's better than not performing in the preseason. So it's a good sign that he is, but it's hard to take too much away from it. If Goff is healthy, he's going to play. So you're not going to see too much Hendon Hooker in the regular season. So it's just a very tough determination on Hendon Hooker, just because you're not going to get any real reps to really grade him on.
And looking at another piece of this Lions offense that has kind of been their calling card the past 2 seasons is that offensive line. And we know, Jonah Jackson departs. They bring in Kevin Zeitler from the Ravens, which seems like an upgrade. He's had a little injury concern. He hasn't been able to come to camp so far. And just today, Penei Sewell left camp with a foot injury. He walked off under his own power. Yeah, it said that they were looking at him, and the trainers looked at him, took off his shoe. He put it back on, and he limped off under his own power, but that's still not something you want to see with your cornerstone player. The Lions, no doubt, I think, have the best offensive line in the NFL looking at their starters. But the depth pieces are a little lacking, and if an injury happens with some of those big guys up front, is that a concern for Lions fans for the depth of their offensive line?
Obviously, you don't want any long-term issues, but I do trust this coaching staff to mitigate any offensive line issues if it's for the short term. I remember, I believe it was 2022. Almost their entire offensive line was missing games early on, and they still were able to put together a very good run game and create explosive runs. So I trust this coaching staff to be able to mitigate those issues long term. And then the skill player group is so good now. Especially if you think Sam Laporta can really ascend to be an elite tight end, Jahmyr Gibbs. We'll see what Jameson Williams can develop into. That I think they can carry an injured offensive line if they need to. But yeah, like you guys said, that offensive line is really the identity of this team, and you don't want guys like Penei Sewell missing games. But again, I trust the staff, and I think the skill players are good enough to where it's not going to be devastating.
And I want to flop to the other side of the ball real quick, too. How are you buying this Detroit Lions defense at all with this young secondary and DJ Reader? Like, here locally, I'm all bought in. I've seen it for myself firsthand, too. Guys like Levi O, he's finally shown up. I forgot that he was drafted in the second round and had that type of potential. And we've yet to even see DJ Reader, but I think this defensive line, along with Hudson and Lee McNeil and even Marcus Davenport, we can stay healthy. I think we can carry like a top 15, top 12 defense. Am I tripping?
No, I think if you hit top, I think if they hit top 15, this is going to be again a team that's going to be an NFC Championship and challenging for Super Bowl. And to me, I think the front seven is going to be a very aggressive front seven that's able to play the run well. And we all know that it all depends on the health of their corners. If they can stay healthy and play man coverage like Aaron Glenn wants to, then this is going to be a very good unit. But if those corners get injured and they have to kind of revert to just throwing things against the wall, kind of like what Glenn did last season, then the results are going to be a mixed bag. So we'll see how healthy those corners could be and how quickly those younger corners can develop.
Yeah, and looking at that defense, especially that secondary, a guy that was kind of a rookie standout last year in Brian Branch is now getting moved to safety full-time, where Ife Melifonwu is looking like he is going to be a backup, and they were going to replace that nickel spot with Amik Robertson. How big of an impact can Brian Branch be playing hopefully 90+% of the defensive snaps for this team? Because we heard, Kyle Shanahan said they ran sets in the NFC Championship game to get him off the field. So what could he mean playing a full-time position for the defense?
Yeah, like you said, personnel can't control his snaps anymore because he's always going to be on the field. Like the Niners could come out in 21 personnel and be heavy, 12 personnel, and maybe that gets a nickel off the field. But now that he's always going to be on the field, that impact's always going to be there. So that's pretty exciting to see. Amik Robertson is a guy that I watched a ton when he was a Raider, so I'm excited that he gets the opportunity, and he's such a good fit with that Lions attitude because he's a smaller guy, but he just plays with so much feistiness, and he's willing to stick his helmet in there, whether he's on a tackle or whether he's playing press. And the number one thing that really gets him going is that if somebody taunts him. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but the games where people started taunting him for his height, that's the games where he really took off.
Yeah,
that's funny. It makes him like a character almost. I see him post on social media here. We follow each other, and like every once in a while, I'm like, did something happen? Did he get caught or yelled at? He seems pissed off every single day, but he's just that hungry to be great. I'm excited to see Meek Robinson too. What was your take on Terry Arnold coming out of the draft? And What can he like actually man down a starting spot on a Super Bowl roster, or is it kind of too soon to put those type of expectations on him?
It's always tough to put that expectation on a rookie, but he did play in Alabama where he got pro style coaching. He played for a team with championship aspirations every year. And that's one of the reasons why teams love scouting from these big schools like Alabama. It's tough to put that type of expectation on a rookie, but I think playing where he did, he does have a leg up in that.
And looking at these other teams in the NFC, that now the Lions they're sitting at the big boy table. You know, they're one of the top teams in the NFC. So you got to look at the landscape of it. And one of them is the Cowboys. They're always up there. They're always, oh, it's their year, we them boys, all that stuff. This year it seems like they're falling apart. Like, still no Dak deal done. CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jones are getting into subtweeting beefs all over the place. Well, what's going on with the Cowboys, and has there been any movement on the deals getting done for their stars?
I think it looks like CeeDee Lamb is pretty close, and for some reason, the Cowboys are just a team that does not want to put a lot of guaranteed money in these contracts and get contracts done early, which is why they're in the predicament that they're in to the last second. With guys like CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott on a contract year. So I kind of compare them to like a McDonald's franchise. They know they're going to get the customers in because they have the brand, but they're trying to cut costs everywhere else because they know they're still going to get customers even if the product is inferior. And it just doesn't make sense because they've been so good at drafting. And the reason why they're still relevant is because they hit big on all these draft picks. And they look like they have another one in their left tackle, Tyler Smith, by the way. But yeah, they've just survived on great drafting, but their ability, their willingness to spend money is what really kind of holds them back from being a true contender.
Ted, man, I appreciate the time to be with us. And this next question is kind of selfish, and it's just because I knew you were in Indianapolis. I'm in an underdog league. I'm like round 10. Donnie Mitchell's staring at me right now, man. Was he getting any love when you're down there in camp? And how's Anthony Richardson look?
Richardson looks really good. He, loves throwing the ball deep. He hit some really nice deep shots, and obviously just the ability to run. I thought he was making quicker decisions in the red zone. I think he's poised for a big season. Donnie Mitchell was killing guys in one-on-one, but it was one-on-one where, you got to do some more double moves and stuff that's just kind of hard to cover in those situations. But, I mean, in this offense, they need a number one guy outside that could win deep, and they don't really have that. Pittman is a great underneath intermediate receiver, but I think they're looking for that outside guy that could win. They thought it could be Alec Pierce, but Alex Pierce has been inconsistent, and I think Adonai Mitchell is going to get a shot at being that number one guy outside it, who's going to see a ton of one-on-one because teams are going to be so focused on taking Richardson away.
Man, I appreciate that. I was going to ask you real quick, too, about your Raiders, that defensive line. I mean, is there life there, or are you still bound down to the Chiefs in that division?
I mean, the offense is going to really cap the ceiling of this team, and the quarterback situation stinks, really. So
with no faith in Minshew Mania?
He's a good backup quarterback, but when he's your starter coming into the season, that's not an ideal situation. So I'm excited to see this defense, but we'll see how far this offense can progress. I just, not very excited about the ceiling of the offense.
Our sound guy's a big Brock Bowers guy. How's he doing? Is he playing H-back over there?
Yeah, I mean, they're moving him all over the field. They're really committing to this 12 personnel identity. And he's been impressing people in camp, and he's been uncoverable. So I think he's going to be a treat to watch.
How early, Ted, is too early to take Brock Bowers in a fantasy draft? Because I'm going to be, he was my guy coming out of the draft.
The only problem is he's going to have Gardner Minshew throwing to him. So and he's going to be competing with targets with a lot of different guys like Devontae Adams. So I don't know if I would draft him too early, but I think, next year will be the year where he really kind of takes off. And
Ted, before we let you go, appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Yeah, man, thank you.
I was kind of the first on it in this room to say that the Lions will win the Super Bowl, but I think a lot of us have come around in here to believe that this is the year, and it's finally not like just Lions slappy, fans drinking the Kool-Aid. This is our year, kind of. We actually have backing, and we were, in the NFC Championship game last year. Well, what are your odds of Lions actually hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year?
Sounds so crazy to hear.
What are the odds for the Niners? I'm not good with odds, so
I think they're second or third. I want to say the Niners are.
Well, what is it like? What would that be like? 20-1, like 12-1 or something?
Probably something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would put them a small notch below the Niners as far as odds to make the NFC Championship. I think the Eagles are going to bounce back and be a contender again. But the Lions are just so complete, and obviously we know what the Niners can do. But yeah, I would say it's a small notch below the Niners.
Yeah, right now the Lions are fourth. You got the Chiefs plus 600, the Niners plus 600, the Ravens plus 1,000, and the Lions at plus 1,200.
Wow.
Interesting. I mean, I think I would put them over the Ravens. The Ravens lost a lot of talent. I think losing Mike McDonald is a huge deal. So, yeah.
Yeah, they lost some offensive linemen, too. I don't remember who
Kevin
they replaced
Zeitler.
them with. Yeah, Zeitler, one of them, too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Ted, man, I appreciate you. Did you watch any Bears tape? I've been kind of sad about Austin Booker. I want him here as a Lion, and I see him in Chicago making plays. Is it just cleanup, or is there something to be worried about here as a Lions fan?
I haven't watched a ton of Austin Booker. Whenever I watch the Bears, I've been watching a lot of Caleb Williams. I mean, they're a team to be excited about, but like I said before, I don't think they're going to be a team that really challenges the Lions, especially early on.
Ted, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Again, Ted got his own YouTube channel where he breaks down plays. I was checking it out. He put out some stuff as recently as yesterday. Also writes for The Athletic, and he has his own podcast, Just Win Podcast. Any sleepers this year for rookies or MVPs? Anything you got coming up that you want people to check out?
Sleepers for rookies. You mentioned all my channels. I write for The Athletic, obviously. Maybe Jalen Polk from the Patriots. I know people aren't talking about the Patriot receivers a lot, but every time I've seen him, he seems like he makes a lot of plays, and he's a very developed receiver. So maybe he could make an instant impact.
Ted, man, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, man.
Real quick, chat's asking best quarterback in the NFC North.
Best quarterback in NFC North. Maybe you guys won't like me for this, but I think Jordan Love is going to be that guy.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I did that to troll the chat. Hey, Ted, appreciate you, man. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.